I guess we'll start. Thanks for coming. God, I can't believe I put all these chairs out, and I thought I'd be like 3 people in the back, but this is awesome.
That's great.
So my name is Scott Schmidt. I'm the oh, that's loud. I'm the supervisor of graphics production here at SIE, and this is Joy Manna. Joy has been involved in the museum world for a long time.
Yeah.
And she and I have been talking a bit about sustainability, specifically with graphics materials, which is kind of my focus right now. And this seemed to be the perfect spot to kind of bring up some of that and to talk about, get the conversation going, really. Sustainability is a pretty complicated, challenging topic. We're all trying to figure it out, what it means and how to approach it. So today is just really, this is at the moment, sort of some of the projects we've been working on, the materials and the thoughts. And
Yeah.
what are you going to say?
Sustainability, from my perspective, I work with a lot of medium and smaller museums. And so if you were to ask any two people what it means to them, you'd get a million different answers. Not everybody can agree, right? But what they can all agree on is when they look at exhibition, what's really key to them moving forward is louder. Oh, how's that? Even louder. Okay. What's really key to
There you go.
to them, I'm going to go around here, is reusability and versatility and exhibition design. They want the bones. They want structures. They want fixtures that they can use over and over and over again. I see this all the time. You know, you think the vitrines, they should be retired by now. No, still being used. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So one way to refresh and reuse exhibit space is through graphics. And we really, Scott, put a stake in the ground and said, let's start somewhere, because materials is a massive topic. And very few people have access to testing. And the materials world isn't making materials for museums, okay? And so we are all MacGyvers. We are all just trying to figure it out and make it work for us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not easy. So Scott's been doing a lot of work. I've been looking into it because everybody's asking for it. Everybody. On listservs, customers calling in. They want to know what they can do because they want to do the right thing. That's what it comes down to. We want to do the right thing. We want to be sustainable.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about with exhibits in particular, you think about they have a short period of time, but they're going to get really abused during that period of time. So we tend to want to think really robust. Products are going to be around for a long time. Those products tend to be non-recyclable products, for example, PVC products and vinyls that we use. So my investigation has been, let's think about exhibits a little differently. Is it going to be around for a long time? And maybe that's a different issue and different kinds of materials. Is it a temporary exhibit? Can we be greener in those circumstances? Or can we somehow find a balance between the two of those? And I'm not sure where that answer lies. I do know that it takes a lot of research. You've got to experiment with stuff, test it, and so often the budget's not there, the time is not there to really make that happen. So, we've had the luxury of being able to do some of that at SIE, and I have some examples of that here. And what I really wanted to focus on were some things that we've done recently in exhibits to just talk about the process that took us to those materials, why we went there. And like any other material, it's great in all these ways, and yet this one little way over here, it really doesn't work out. So how can we change that, or how can we accommodate that in the design? And there has to be this conversation between design and the budget and the production to know, what's possible for this. And there has to be a balance. And unfortunately, sustainable practice, sustainable materials are not cheap, generally. There's a cost to it. And we have to make the choice to accept that and work with that or not. I find it a great challenge. I think it's really interesting. I mean, the fact is that the industry has responded to this, and there are a whole lot more products on the market right now than even like 5 years ago. So, you know, they're getting the message, people want these things. The challenge, though, is how do we implement them in a museum environment where it's pretty abusive. So, what else do I want to talk about? Oh, I guess one of the thoughts is, you know, when we were talking about, for example, PVC and thinking, well, if here's a polyester product, there's other materials that we can use that are, quote, recyclable. But the more I dug into it, are they really recyclable in the sense that who's going to take them? Where's it actually going to get recycled? And quite often those sources want large volumes of material, or they just simply don't really exist. Unfortunately, a lot of stuff is getting, as we know, there's just no market for it. The cost of recycling is high. So these things are getting landfilled. We used to send a lot of stuff to China. That's not happening now. So there's this incredible buildup of plastic materials that are just choking us. One of the materials I'm really interested in is polyester, for example, polypropylenes, things like that. But when you look at the manufacturing side of that, you know, this is a material that has its own issues in terms of being actually produced, but also a lot of it starts out as little tiny beads. And those little tiny beads go everywhere, if you think about it. And I was just, I guess 2 days ago, driving in, heard about this report, this amazing amount, I'm going to get the number wrong, I'm sure, but it is a tremendous amount of these tiny beads floating all over the world in the oceans and the rivers and stuff. And they're around for, you know, let's face it, forever. So even though the end product seems great and is recyclable, when it starts out, it has issues. And then if you can't actually find someone to take it and to recycle it, is it really recyclable? Is it really that product? So what I've been looking at currently anyway is our paper materials, and actually Emily, who's sitting right here, I think really started this conversation years ago. And I thought, well, paper is just not going to be robust enough for exhibits. We're going to have, you know, issues with it. But we started to use it most recently in, there's a really interesting exhibit at Natural History on, I think it's the 100th anniversary of Barrow, Colorado, the Smithsonian Tropical Research Center. And it's a pretty good sized room, and all the walls and even the center partitions are covered with mural material. So it was, you know, what are we going to use for that material? And I didn't want to use a vinyl. And so we decided to go with this product made by Neenah. And the unique part about it is that it's actually a latex impregnated paper. And I have a bunch of samples of a lot of things up here, so grab something before you go. We were working in a gallery that has low VOC paints, which I think we're all dealing with in all of our galleries. And you probably know, you've seen the issue with this. If you try to stick things to walls that have low VOC paint, it's off-gassing, it does not want to stick. You know, and we've seen it before. And often it's like it goes up, it's fine, and then a month or two later, the mural's on the floor, right? It just has that, and then you get a phone call that you don't want to get. So before we do any actual applications to walls, we will always do an adhesion tests. And I don't know if you're familiar with adhesion tests. We have a kit here, and we can actually show some how that's done afterwards if you're interested. But in that particular gallery, we tested 8 different mural materials on the walls. Everything from traditional vinyls to, you know, polyesters, things that we had used in the past and things we hadn't used, as well as this product. And this worked really well. It actually passed the test. So we decided, well, let's go with this. It printed great. It's got a nice texture. It feels, there's 2 different types here. There's a smooth and a textured. The textured feels like, I don't know if you're familiar with print and stick or Phototex. It feels like a fabric. It's actually an embossed product. So, and again, being a paper product, latex impregnated, it actually does have, it breathes a small amount. And that breathing is what's so critical, because the walls are going to off-gas for a while. You know, it used to be that you would be told, 3M kind of has said you have to wait 30 days, I think, between when you put the last coat of paint on and when you can apply something. how many people have ever been given 30 days, right? You might get 5 days, but you're not going to get 30. Recently, they've come out saying, actually, you have to wait 45 days now. So, you know, that's a challenge across the board. We could have a whole talk just about that issue. But in this case, this stuck pretty well. We decided to, just to be safe, we actually put a small strip, a thin strip of wood painted out to the wall color all the way across the tops of the murals, just to keep it from starting to peel. We figure we can control that. But actually, it's held up really well. I'm pretty happy with it. And we then used it at the Afrofuturism exhibit at NMAC, and which is, if you haven't seen it, you should get over there. It's a really great, really fun exhibit. And we had some challenging walls there that had cutouts in them, and it worked great. It's easy to put up. It's repositionable, which is key because, you know, you want to be able to make sure everything is exactly where you want it. We even had a situation where we put up a panel, and after we put it up, we had to peel the entire panel off in order to reposition it. And a lot of materials, you just can't get away with that. This came off, we cleaned it up, and we put it back on. I say we. It wasn't me, it was somebody else, but we were able to pull that off. So I don't want to say endorse necessarily all products, but we have to talk about products of what's out there. And if you haven't tried it, I would say give it a shot. And if you have other questions about it, you know, feel free to ask.
I would say it's one of the most requested things I see on listservs is wall murals, because it's something a lot of places can do to refresh their spaces. So I'm really excited about this material from Neenah, because, you know, this is something that they're asking for without PVCs. They want, you know, VOCs. So it's good stuff.
It also sticks to itself really well. So you can do an overlap. It is a paper product, and the paper tends to, you know, will separate, so it works better, I think, if you double cut it. And if you come around here, you can see 2 examples of what that's like. It's a nice thickness. Some of the paper products, like the Dreamscapes, they're quite thick in their fabric and paper, so they are a challenge to handle. It's also a wet adhesive, and while that's great for a permanent exhibit, unless you hang wallpaper, I'm not how many sure people have hung wallpaper anymore, but unless you do it a lot, it's a challenge. It can be difficult to do, and it's wet, and this is simple. So I would check it out. What else? One of the things that we're able to do here, if you've walked through, you've seen too, especially the large direct-to-surface printer. So that just eliminates a whole material altogether. In the past, we would print on something and then we would laminate on something, so now you've got 2 materials that you're putting up. With the direct printer, we're able to put ink directly onto a substrate. And we use a lot of this. It's one of our go-to materials. Again, in the past, this is a Sintra product. It's a PVC. And we're really trying to move away from PVC, so what can we print on that has some of the qualities that we like about PVC? And there's a lot about it that's great. You know, it fabricates really well, it cuts well, it prints well, it's inexpensive. I mean, there's a lot to say for it. Unfortunately, the downside is you can't really recycle it, even though, again, it's called recyclable. But well, when you really dig into it, and I have gone down that rabbit hole, I finally found a place, a well-known, you know, deck manufacturer, and they'll take it. They'll recycle it. You have to have 10,000 pounds, and you have to get it to Ohio.
You need a truck.
So that's not going to happen. So anyway, we're trying different things. We print a lot on sign blank, aluminum sheet, you know, enameled, and that prints really well. We've had a lot of success with that. One thing we do is we will, you know, do a print. Maybe some of you have seen that award before. And then we'll use a material. We have all this COVID signage that we did. So it came out, we had to change it several times, so we just clean off the back and do that. So that's actually a feature to this product that I really like. And then when you're done, you can actually recycle it. One of the challenges with recycling aluminum sheet goods is if you vinyl wrap something, they won't take it. So we recently just had to get rid of a whole lot of stuff, and unfortunately, and it's aluminum, but you can't get it recycled, so it ends up being. So that is something to think about as well. This is a product that it's a color core impregnated MDF. It's also fire rated, and again, we can actually print on that as well. So, you know, we're trying to get some of the features of the MDF, which is a black edge, a good surface. The direct printer, one of the challenges you have with a direct printer is the proximity of the heads to the surface is, you know, extremely tight. So the material you're printing on has to be very flat, and it has to be very uniform in thickness. And if it's not, you're going to get hit, you know, head strikes and damage and a messed up print. So when you get into rigid materials, that is certainly something to be considered. Whenever we set it up, and if you haven't been out next door where Mike is working, you take the material, you're speccing it all out, you understand exactly what the thickness is all the way around, you're making your calculations, setting the machine up so that you don't have that happen. But some of these products warp, they're not the same thickness, and then you have the issues with that. But the direct-to-surface printer lets you do a lot. We do a lot of second surface printing on acrylic, sometimes first surface printing on acrylic for in-case work. I don't know, how often do you see direct printers being used in your world?
Very few people have access to direct printing.
Yeah.
So you've got to go to a graphics shop, somebody
Yeah.
who has that capability or the equipment.
Yeah, we're fortunate to have two of these. There's Liz is here. She's got one at the Mock. I think American History is just getting one right now. It's a game changer. It really is. I mean, it's fast, surprisingly robust. One of the things that this printer will do that our other one doesn't do is it'll actually do tactile printing. So we're able to print Braille. We're going to have a little demonstration of that after this talk as well. And some of these printers will actually do a final, like a varnish coat. What we do, because we have this great facility next door and a really good finisher, we actually spray a finish on top of our direct prints to protect them. So that's generally speaking the process that we almost always laminate our products. Say something while I think about what to say.
How about I talk about recycled acrylic? So COVID, they switched over, they made all sorts of acrylic barriers. Acrylic was everywhere. And now not so much. So you had actually told me about it. You was like, I saw this saw this thing for eco-green recycled acrylic. And I said, okay, let's get some, let's check it out. We just quickly glued up a vitrine. The claim is it has the same physical properties as your virgin acrylic. It can be fabricated the same optical clarity. So the one thing I would say at looking at this, and I don't have a device that's telling me this, is that I think it has a little bit of a tinge, like a little bit of a smokiness, a little bit of a grayness. But acrylic is now recyclable. But the disappointing thing is there's no great recycling stream for acrylic. It's like rated as a 7. It's other. And so people who want to do this have to figure that out. You mentioned earlier, pre-COVID, the whole supply chain for refuse broke.
Right.
And plastics, they didn't take plastics, they weren't working with them anymore. But you can reach out to your plastics supplier or your plastics fabricator. You can take your used acrylic to them, and that's probably the closest way you'll get to the right stream to go back into recycled acrylic. Now, recycled acrylic is made up of the offcuts at the factory as well as post-consumer. They say it's 100% recycled. And what you're doing is the monomer, I'm not a chemist, that they use, the synthetic monomer, which is MMA. You don't want to be making more of that. They're taking it, distilling it, this is a newer process, extracting it and making new cast acrylic, which is usable, you can fabricate, And more of this is happening because there's just so much acrylic kind of out in space in the market now. And, you know, we need to be doing something about it. The surprising news was that the price point per sheet was pretty much the same. So unlike a lot of other things that when you're trying to be green, and this is a green product, it's comparable price-wise.
Yeah, so in this shop, we need to use a digital products for acrylic, right? It has a surface that's prepared to receive UV ink. And one of the companies that we work with is actually just now going to be coming out with that product in 100% recycled acrylic. So it gets back to, you know, the market is hearing the issue. They are going to respond to it, and new things are coming out, which is pretty cool. And I'm looking at this thing. This is kind of a fun thing. I'm going to show you two quick things, and I know we're going to run out of time in a moment, but so there's a printer. There's a couple of these, I guess, that are on the market now. It's a UV printer. It's a direct-to-surface printer, but it actually prints on walls, right? So it's a vertical printer. It's running on a track. It's the similar process as what's in there, and all right, there's no media, right? You don't have to put anything on. If you're thinking about the process of silk screening and how complicated that can be and frustrating, this is maybe an option, right? So what I did was prepare a couple boards, and specifically, if you'll notice that they're not flat. I put a lot of plaster on it, tried to get a real varied thing, sent it off to this company, and this is the result. Now, what I found out later is this was what they call their faster print process. I could slow it down and get a better quality, so I think that we still need to explore this. But it really is a pretty interesting process and something. Now it's brand new, so someone's got to figure it out and get through it. I don't know what it's going to take to maintain. It's not cheap. I bet they're, you know, $60,000 or something like that. But we, you know, Liz and I are talking about going and visiting and checking it out and seeing, you know, learning more about it. And the other stuff, which is kind of cool, and you should come up and play with this afterwards. This is a product called Fantastic, which is a great name. So what they're doing is, an Italian company, they're using UV printers, and the printers had different channels for different color inks. So in one of those channels, they're putting in a proprietary adhesive. So that's the first layer going down, and then you're building your color on top of that. So they're printing that onto I think it's silicone surface. And what you end up with is essentially like a press type. I don't know if you've ever used press type, but this is similar to a press type. And they can do these quite large. This is a small sample, but they can do large mural materials. So you would lay it out on your board, in this case a board, on your wall, and position it, and then you can roll it. Now in the video, they're literally rolling it on, and reality is surfaces are not flat, they're bumpy, you have to do a lot more than that. So then I would go to a squeegee, and I would be actually squeegeeing it out. And then, because I'm picky, if you look at this, there's some incredibly fine line going on here, stuff that would be really hard to actually adhere. So I tend to use like a bone folder when I'm doing that. And in the end, hopefully, it transfers it to the surface. So
he has samples up there.
Definitely, I have samples, and you all got to do it because it's actually kind of fun.
You got to try it.
On the back side,
cool.
direct-to-surface printing on the same surface. We're doing an exhibit right now for the EPA, small museum there, and one of the design elements is actually a maple veneer on an MDF core material, and we're direct printing right on that. I think that's all my toys. You're welcome to come up and look at anything and see what you have. If you have any questions, we're around.
I just want to add one thing, that bioplastics are still, you know, it's still hot. They're still developing a lot of things. I came across a polyethylene made with sugarcane ethanol. And so there's more coming. I mean, people are demanding it, and as the markets, you know, manufacturers kind of catch up, and catch on. We're
Yep.
hoping to see more of this. So with that,
Yeah.
You said bioplastic, does that mean it's biodegradable?
they tout it as 100% recyclable. You know, again, this is Scott's point. You know, plastics are still plastics. So you have to be able to, you know, it has to go to the right place, got to take care of it. But this particular polyethylene passes PAT, and so, you know, I'm looking at things from also a conservation side, and they're using it as, it's a Calibri book jacket cover system. So they've got somebody who's able to get it sheeted and cut and sealed, but they're using this material, this polyethylene, that will pass PAT, and the thing is, it's 100% recyclable, so. And, you know, we're not using fossil fuels.
Yeah.
Yay. So, you know, the one place I go to is AIC, has a wiki. And I feel like that's been like the best place where people have been willing to share their test data on whether, you know, pass, it's okay for temporary, or it failed. Mm-hmm. And I would caution, though, that sometimes we don't have control over the supply chain. And sometimes manufacturers can make tiny tweaks that don't even show up on the spec sheet,
Right.
but then it's going to
Right.
fail Audi. And so we just, you can't make that 100% claim, but you can guide. And this is my point, is to say we need to be sharing this information. We need to be providing more information to folks. They're looking for it, they're hungry for it, and they want to do the right thing.
Yeah.
I would say that at Smithsonian, there's a group of designers interested in sustainability that's called SPEED, Sustainability Professionals in Exhibit and Enterprise Design. And one of our goals, we have a team site, and one of our goals is to share more sustainable options. And so we're trying to build it. It's taking a little bit of time, but you know, these types of materials are exact things that we want to be sharing with clients.
Yeah.
Hey,
And
that's good to know.
There's the Material Workers Group as well,
Yep.
which is a good place. I mean, I'm happy to always talk to anybody about this stuff. I'm a bit of a, well, we both are. We're
Yeah.
material nerds, so happy to discuss anything as long as you want to. But seriously, if you want to call, you know, I'd love to know. And I think it's a community effort. We got to talk to each other, and that's how we're going to grow in this and make it happen. So. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for sharing some
And,
time with us today.
Enjoy.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, there's nobody available.